Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to our Word 2007 Level 2 class. And here's a couple of topics that we're going to be going over today. Mass mailings, which deals with envelopes and labels and what they call form letters that you can send out to companies, to employees. And yes, we're going to look at some more formatting options because there's quite a few in Microsoft Word. Those are just a few topics. I'm going to put this window back up again for your review from last time. So just a quick overview again of the Word layout, the Office button, the Quick Access toolbar, title bar, your ribbon area, your document window, your status bar. As you work in Word, these areas of your screen will get more and more familiar to you. And that is for that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one, and we'll go straight up here to blank document. Like I said, we're going to be going over a few formatting options. We're going to take a look at mass mailings because it's one of the important things for all newcomers to the Microsoft Word products to become familiar with. A lot of companies use this for mailing out newsletters. So one of the first things we're going to take a look at, we're going to go straight into Word here. We're going to go straight over to our Mailings tab. Yeah, you can follow along, bring up Word, and just jump in over here to a blank document and go to your Mailings tab here, kind of in the middle of your window. Now, we touched base on this last time, just briefly, but we're going to go into actually creating some envelopes, some labels, and do a form letter to do up a mail merge to send out letters to a whole bunch of potential clients or anything like that. So you can see that actually live in action here today. So going over here, starting on the left side, we have envelopes. And so to help you create and print envelopes, you can always press the F1 for help, and this one, create and print labels. Now, a lot of companies buy these like Avery labels, and there's sheets and sheets of paper with different size labels on it. This is what you would need to do to fill out those labels on those sheets, to print them out, and then you can use those sticky labels to add to envelopes if you do it that way, or for other purposes to label products and things. It really depends on what you use those for, because there's a lot of different options of different labels that you can use them. The next one over here is the mail merge, where you can see it says Start Now Merge. To create a form letter, which you can intend to print or email multiple times, and which would be, different copy for each different person or company, depending on what you're sending it to, or who you're sending it to. What that'll do is you can create like a generic letter, like I mentioned before, but it can be tailored to different people or different companies or other type of information depending on what you have and what you need on this letter. Next button over is actually select your recipients, the list of people or companies that you're going to be sending these letters to. And it says you can do it on your own list, use an Outlook contacts, or connect to like a database if you have one of those. And then if you have a list created, you can edit that and take a look at that list, sort it and so forth, to pick and choose what you need to use with your mail merge or your envelopes and labels. And then once you start creating a document, these fields in this big section in the middle for writing and insert fields here, this will become available, but not until you start creating one. And then there's some other tabs here for previewing the results, and then finally here we have, at the very end, we have, finish it up and actually merge your document. So basically when you hit merge, it's going to create 10 different envelopes or 10 different letters, and create all those different documents for you. Then you can actually print them, save them, email them, convert them to some other format or whatever you need to do afterwards. But that part is the last step in this process. So we're going to start with basic. We're going to go all the way back to the left side here and create an envelope. This will create, so you have blank envelopes. You can do this at home. As long as you got a printer that supports envelopes, you can create these at home or at work. So I'm going to go here to envelopes. I'm going to click that button, and it brings up this envelope and label menu here. And actually, you can do, in this one, you notice there's two tabs, envelopes and labels. So if you hit the wrong one, you can go to labels if you're actually trying to get the labels, or you can go back to envelopes. So if I close it and click on labels, once again, it's the same thing, just takes you directly to what you clicked on, labels or envelopes. So it's the same window, so it just gives you choices for the two different ones in this section, because this is more of a lot easier than the other one. So you have a section here for delivery address, and if you have an address in your address book, you can use that. There's an option for electronic postage, but you got to install the software, which I don't. Get that from, it tells you here from the Microsoft website and so forth. I'm just going to say no. And then a return address, and then of course your address or your company's address that you want to show up on these envelopes. And then we have a preview, so it kind of gives you the layout of what it's going to look like. And also, it's very important how it feeds properly into your printer. And it's probably a little bit different from every printer, but this kind of shows you what it currently looks like, how you would be entering it in your printer. But you can change it if it's wrong. I always recommend print one first, verify that it's correct and how it prints off of your printer. And then you can print your 10 or 20 or envelopes that you needed to send out. Now at the bottom we have buttons here for printing, add to the document, to this blank document here, some options and ePost properties if that was set up and installed. Delivery address is, who you're going to send this envelope to. There's a big window here. You can type and it'll put all your information in. Return address, or you can just admit it, and if you see I click on admit over there, it just made that whole section just go bye-bye on the screen. You don't see it on here no more. It's gone. Don't really recommend that, so I'm going to turn that back on. But it is an option if you didn't want your return address on there. But if the post office doesn't have a return address, they don't know where to go to. If the address was wrong, you'll never see it again. If I click on this preview button, or this preview area, it brings up the envelope options. And this is where you would pick what size of envelopes you're dealing with. Now, typically by default it has size 10 here selected, but there's multiple other sizes available depending on what size you have. I go to size 14, and then it automatically adjusts all the settings for size 14 envelopes. And I'm going to go back to the standard size 10. Now, in here you have options to change your font. If you ever get a letter from someone, maybe family or friends, and they have different formatting on the screen or envelope from other companies or junk mail, this is how you can do that as well to change the way the text looks for the addresses. So you have options for your delivery address and also your return address. So if you wanted to change those, you just click on the corresponding font button, and it brings up the font menu here to pick a different font type, the style, bold italics and so on, and the actual size of that font. So larger the size, of course, the bigger the text will be. You can also add colors to your addresses by picking a color. By default, it just picks black, but you can change the color of what your text will show up on your envelopes. So if I pick blue or something, now I got to keep the color. I'm not going to do underlines or anything like that, but you can change your font down this list here to something else. And once you do that, if you look at the bottom area, in this preview section at the bottom of the screen, it shows you what that font is going to look like as you change them and picking different ones. So as I click on different font names, you got that preview right away. So you don't actually have to apply it. You can take a look at them and see which one that you like yourself. There's quite a few choices in there. And then so once you find one, it'll show you what it is down there. And if the font comes up too small, that's when you would increase the actual font size so it's easier to read, because some fonts are different sizes when you select it. So you'll see that in those changes when you select different fonts there. Yes, other effects here in the middle area, strike through, double strike through, all these other features. Since this is a letter, you probably don't want to use much as anything of these features unless you want to make it all caps to show up on your envelope that way. So you can pick that instead of typing it that way. But typically, I don't use those, but they are available. So once you set your font colors, you have this other tab here for character spacing, and that's the spacing of the characters, being each letter or each number. I don't usually mess with this, but if you need to, you can. There's scaling. Spacing is normal. And if I switch it to expanded, you can see the results down here again, this preview section. So it's separated the letters, so it's a little bit easier to read. If I do condense, it pushes them together, and you can use this to get more information on your document, more text and things like that. If I switch it back to normal, it goes back to the normal spacing, but once again here it's expanded, spreads out the letters more, or condensed, pushes them together. And I'll just switch it back to normal. And I'll say OK. So yeah, go settings. Okay. So that was on the delivery address. Now, your return address is the one, like your address, and you have all these options as well. I'm going to leave this one alone. Leave it as the default, and I'll just say OK to get out of it. But you can change your fonts for your addresses and also your return address. The next tab over in this envelopes option is printing options. Now, like I was telling you before, you'll have to figure this out on your own printer of how it goes into your printer. And it gives you visual examples of how it may work, how you want to feed your envelopes into your printer. I'm just going to leave it at the default because we're not actually going to print anything here, but I'll leave it like it is. And then you can also pick face up or face down, and like I said, it depends on your printer which one you need to use. And the bottom part here is feed from. That means where you're going to feed these envelopes to into your printer. Typically, it's like the manual tray, and then this one is called the bypass tray. Because you can't put these in like a regular, well, you could try to put them in tray 1 or tray 2. You would just have to adjust the trays if they would accept envelopes or not. Once again, that's up to the printer that you have. Most of the time I deal with it, you print a couple of envelopes if needed, and they go to the manual feed or the bypass tray, but there's other options as well. And that just depends on your printer that you have. So I'm not going to change anything else on here. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now, just a refresher, to get to that, you could click either one of these areas in here, under Preview or under Feed. And when you click them, that'll bring up that window that I was just at. go with printer or envelopes option. You just click that area, and it pops up that menu right up for you. So return address. I'm going to go ahead and put in an address in here. Put in some fake information. Put in, see, there's that font and the font color I picked earlier, that delivery address. So it shows you on this screen too once you start typing that in there. So I have a couple options. Once I got this envelope ready, I can print it, and it'll go right to my printer, how many copies I need and so forth. Or I can say add to document. And when I click add to document, which I will do right now, it says, do you want to save the new return address as default return address? So I put a return address, and typically this will be your address or your company's address. So if you want to use that again, feel free, of course, to say yes. It'll save it in there for you, and then you'll be able to click the yellow address book and quickly add that once again. And you can save multiples in there as well, more than one if you would like, and you can pick different return addresses. For this, I'm just going to say no, so it doesn't change any of my default settings here. And I told it to add to my document, so now I can see what it looks like. Because there's much more you can do once you get this envelope ready here. So at this point, I can just print it, and I got an envelope, and I'm done. But you can always go to insert and add pictures and stuff. You see some like Christmas letters with actual graphics on the envelopes. This is where you can do that. I can still add clip art and pictures and shapes onto this envelope. Just make sure you don't put it in this area here where the stand goes. Keep that area clear. But you can pretty much put a graphic or something anywhere else you wanted to if you chose to. When you're ready, you can save this and use it again. Or, go to File and Print and feed your printer with the correct envelope. So that is how you do a simple envelope here. Now, if I go back and hit labels, now since I already had an address in there for labels, it got one right here for me, so it's already available. But let's look at these other options. It's very similar to envelopes, but you're doing a label, so it's a sheet of paper. That's kind of the only big difference there. So the main thing to concern about is right over here, this label section. When you go to the store and you pick out some labels that will work for your printer and the sizes that you need, this is where you would come in and set that size right in the screen here. You would set that size by clicking on it, like I did at the other screen. It brings up this label options screen. So some of these settings here, once again, are based upon your printer. So be aware of that. And then the big thing here is your vendors for your labels. That means what is the brand of labels you bought at the store. A lot of times you'll see Avery labels. So if you do the little drop-down link button here, it'll show you a bunch of different vendors that you can choose from. Standard one is Avery. And it typically shows you the number and everything on the box when you buy your labels. So once you select the vendor, down here is the product numbers, and it tells you what the type of label it is over here, so you can double check and get the correct one. So business card, go for these, tip cards, top field, go to the bottom, here's the name badge, sizes, different other products, CD cases, address labels, so shipping labels. So we're getting to some of the standard stuff here. We create a whole bunch of labels and put on envelopes. If your printer doesn't print envelopes very well, you can do it via the labels and have sheets of labels with your return addresses on it, so you don't have to stamp them or anything else. It's one option to do it. Let's see what else we have. Yeah. I'll just pick one of these, and I'll say OK. So now my label is updated here on this section. So now it says Avery, and type I picked it. The next part you'll need to check is this one. Are you going to do a full page of the same label, or just print one label? And that can be more tricky when you're doing a single label, trying to pick the exact row and exact column where you left off last time, but it can be done. So maybe only print one or two labels at a time, because your address, or you don't need a whole sheet of labels for the same person or the same company. So then you would do this, and you have to be specific on what row and what column to use when you're creating that label. Or you might print on part of the document that the label is already gone, that you already used from last time. So I'm going to just leave it a full page of the same label. So maybe this up here is your company address or something, and you just want stickers for it to put on your envelopes, so it's a lot quicker and easier for you. Now down at the bottom, we also have some more options here. Print, new document, options, and then once again those e-posted properties, which I don't have that installed on. So before printing, insert your labels into your printer manual feeder. So it tells you kind of what you need to do. Now you can go straight to print, or we can go click on new document, and it'll create a new Word document for us with the labels on it, so you can use it again if you're going to print that same address over and over again. But I'll go and click on new document so you can see what it looks like based upon the settings that I chose. So now I have John Smith everywhere on this one sheet of paper for these big address labels that I chose. Now at this point you can manipulate it. You can change the names on here to make it, to be used for many different addresses. You can adjust the font. So if I select John Smith over here, maybe I want to make it a lot bigger because it's going on a package or something. Maybe I want to change the font. You can still do it after the fact, but don't worry if you don't change your settings during the little setup process. So I change it to Arial, size 18. And maybe if I can print in color and I want to, you can change your font colors if you choose to. Now, maybe I really like this and I want this everywhere else. Well, I can do Control-A to select all and redo it again. Or I can use what they call the Format Painter, which over here by the clipboard is this little button. It looks like a paintbrush. Looks like a paintbrush, that one right there. What this button does is very useful. It'll duplicate your formatting from one thing to another. So if I show you here, first to do that, I will need to select this. Or I can select a little bit of it. It doesn't matter. For this one, it's all the same formatting. So I can just grab one word, and then I can use my paintbrush. So if I hold my mouse on top of it, it says copy formatting from one place and apply it to another. So you can double click the button to apply the same formatting to multiple places in the document. Meaning it'll stay on so you can keep highlighting information to keep changing it. And because my information is all over the place, I might want to do that, but I'll show you both ways. So once you highlight the formatting that you like, you click this one time, and as you can see, it looks depressed. It's turned on now, selected, and my mouse as you can see, it looks like a paintbrush next to it. So I can then click and drag and select a line of text or a whole section like this. And when I let go, it's duplicated that formatting. So now it's both identical for the colors, font sizes, everything. Now, if I wanted to do that again and again to all these other places, I can do Control-A and do it up here manually again. But just to show you how it works, I'm going to select some of this again. I'm going to double-click the paintbrush like it says in the pop-up there. And then I can go here, I can go here, I can go here, select all this. Then I can do it like that, or I can select all that I wanted to all at the same time by clicking and dragging all across my whole screen. But that's a great little tool, that format painter there. Now it's still on, because I did that double click on it. So I need to click it one more time to get my regular cursor again, so I don't keep highlighting and keep changing fonts and stuff everywhere. So that's how you do a label and an envelope, and that's all under mailing. So very basic. You just got to know the address, change your formatting, pick the correct settings for your printer that you have. It kind of guides you through some of that process when you create those. Now the next big step would be with a mail merge. Now mail merge, like I mentioned before, you can use this to create form letters, generic letters that you send out to employees, other businesses. It could be flyers. It could be directed mailings to specific targeted audiences. It could be used for a lot of different things. And it doesn't have to be, physical letters that you're going to print and then mail out to people. You can set this up. You can create these letters and things like that. But then you can also email them out. You can convert them to Adobe PDF files. You can email them, or if you want, you can fax them out. They don't have to go to the post office. That's just from the beginning. You can mail them out physically, or they can be electronically as well once you're finished. So I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to just open up a new blank document here. The next step, we're going to go through back to mailings, and we're going to go to this mail merge section. So I can show you how that works. So this one has like a built-in wizard to kind of step you through the process. I hold my mouse there. It says, start a mail merge to create a form letter that you intend to print, email, and so on and so on. You can insert those fields such as name, addresses, and then it will automatically replace that information from your list, your database that you have, into all these different letters. So I'm going to go and click Start, and mail merge, and when you do, it gives you several options. Now, we did the single envelope, we did the single label, but you can do a merge and create multiple letters and email messages, but also, since we did those already of a single envelope and single label, you can have this mail merge due to set it up so you do multiple labels with multiple different addresses, or envelopes with multiple different addresses, and there's a few other options for that too. And then there's bottom step-by-step mail merge wizard. We're going to go mail merge as a standard letter, which can be used to create just normal business letters and so forth. And once you select that, click that over here, and now I have options to what kind of document are you going to deal with for this mail merge. Letters, email messages, envelopes, labels, a directory. If I click on directory, single document containing a catalog or printed list of addresses. Phone list, phone books, that's what we call a directory. Labels, labels for big mailing, then you have envelopes, and you can do email and letters. We're going to go back to that one. So it kind of steps you through the process with this mail merge wizard. So we're on step 1 of 6 down here. And so nothing much to do here except for select your document type, and I'm going to leave it at letters, and I'm going to say next. And then part 2 here, we got how do you want to set up your letters? Use the current document, start from a template, or start from an existing document. Now, if someone gave you a letter that they want you to use for this mail merge, you can use that. You can start from a template that's in Microsoft Word, or you can just use the blank one that I had open here, you know, a blank document, and then you'll type your letter and set it up later on. Either way it works, and that's up to you and what you have. So if you don't have the letter created already, you can just leave it at the current document, the blank document I have here, and go from there. Or, like I said, if you have that document already created, you can just use that and then place the fields and things like that where you need to. Since I don't have anything set up here, I'm just going to say use the current document. And each one of these will give you an explanation at the bottom, too, of what the options are for those, kind of like in the previous window. But I'm going to leave it like it is. I'm going to use that current document and then go down here and say next. And the next step is select recipients. Now I can, if I make a wrong choice, I can go previous, and maybe I'm not doing letters and so forth. I can go back and say, oops, I'm actually doing labels. So you can go previous and forward on this menu down at the bottom. I'm going to leave it like it is, current document, and I'll go to select my recipients. So use an existing list, select from your Outlook contacts, and type in a new list. So those are a couple options that you have in this area. So if I select type a new list, this last one here, and then it comes up with this. You're going to create a little database list with your names and addresses for those recipients. If I say select from Outlook, and then you have to pick and choose from your Outlook folder that you have already, and then choose an existing list. Use names and addresses from a file or a database. So if you have a list in Microsoft Excel or Access or some other type of database list, you can use that and select from it. So several options for you. I'm going to hit Browse because I do have a file that I want to try out. It should bring up this open box, and I should be able to find it here. I have one called Mailing List, and it's in Excel. So I'm going to double-click that. So once you do, it's going to ask you where we're pulling that information from. To make it easier, I only have one sheet in this Excel document. So it says pulling it from sheet 1, Windows Less Modified, created, and so forth, and the type, because it knows there's data in there, and it found it, and it's inside like a table. Bottom option down here is pretty important. The first row contains your column headings, meaning the headings of first name, last name, city, state, zip. So you need those in your document. It makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to leave it like it is because it knows what I have already, and I'm going to say OK. And then it brings up this data from my mailing list from my Excel document. My mail merge recipients. This is the list that I get to use in my mail merge. And it shows that data source, that file I picked, last name, first name, address, all the fields that I had in there, and all the information. So you have a preview of the data. It also gives you tools to help eliminate mistakes or duplicates down here. You can sort your list, you can filter it out, you can find duplicates in this list if you actually had the same person in here a couple of times or the same address in here several times. So you have some options down there. You can resize these columns, make it bigger or larger to see more information if you needed to. I'm not going to change anything here really. I'm just going to say, okay, yep, that's the data I want to use, so I'm going to say okay on that one. So now that I did, over here it says use existing list, and it has that information filled out of what I selected, where is it coming from, and so forth. The next step, since I did not have a letter, it says I need to write your letter at the bottom here. Step 3, go to step 4, write your letter. So I'm going to click on that. Now, if you're not already done so, write your letter now. Add recipient information to your letter, and so on and so on. When you finish, click next, and you can preview, the letter. Preview letters would be the next step. So, once we're at this step, if you notice, this section, there's options now. Now that we're halfway through this. There is address box, greeting line, and insert merge field. So I'm going to just start as a generic letter, dear, and I'm going to leave it blank there. Just going to put some generic fake information to show you how you can place your information from your field. So address block, insert the address in your letter, greeting line. So this will do things for you. So I already typed dear, but if I'm going to just show you this on greeting line. So here's a preview, dear, to, and then these names of how their name will show up, depending on your data, of course. You can keep it simple like that, or go by first name and last name. Several different options. Now, if there's invalid recipient names, it'll put Sir and Madam for you. And you can put a comma to separate them. So if I said OK, it'll put greeting line, and this is what they call a field. And it'll set it up, and when you do it, it'll have dear so-and-so already set for you. I'm going to delete that field, and I'm going to show you this one, insert merge field. And this is from your data, the data that I selected. And these are the fields that are in my Excel document. So I have first name, last name, city, state, zip, and if you had other information, those will show up here too. But mine was very basic, so I'm going to go here. Wherever your cursor is, that's where that field is going to go. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to say, dear, first name, and then I have to put a space. So it's going to, if you don't put a space, and I put last name, it's going to push the words together. I'm going to do this manually, so you know how the foundation of this. So now I have dear, first name, last name, and then I'll put a comma, just like you would if you actually type their real name. And then you have the body of the message here, the letter, and it may go down several times. And if you had other stuff, you can put in there too. Like I'm going to put over here, not that high, I'm going to merge fields and maybe put their name here, just to show an example. Get rid of this, I'll put it down at the bottom. I'll put their whole thing at the bottom down here. First name, address line, city, space, state, space, and zip, space. So up here I just have the first, last name, and then a little message, and then down here I threw in their full address. Now, I'm done. I'm not going to write a big old letter for this as an example, but you can see the fields now. And that's going to pull this data from my Excel document. The next step down here says preview your letter. So if I hit next, it now shows you the letters, and instead of the field names, it now shows the actual data from my Excel document. So, dear AJ, Thank you for your time last week, and then there's AJ's address. So preview letters, recipient 1, recipient 2. So you can go through this and make sure it looks okay. And to me, yep, it's fine. You put the fields, wherever you put those fields, that's where your information is going to show up. Now, if there's a recipient that you didn't want in there, there's options for that too. You can edit that list. Oh, maybe I really don't want that person in there. You can edit that list. But I'm going to leave it like it is. I want everybody from that short little list. And then the next step is complete the merge at the bottom here. So I'll hit next. Doesn't really do anything except for go to this next window. It's ready to produce your letters now. Now you can go and edit your individual letters if you wanted to. And it gives you that option here, or you can just go straight into it and start printing. So if you needed to change 1 or 2 letters to make it more personalized, you can do that by using the edit individual letters. And what it does is it's going to merge it into a brand new document. So if I click that, it's going to ask me what records. I'm just going to say all, or you can pick from 1 to 2 or whatever. So I'm going to merge all records to a brand new document. So now it's a brand new Word document called Letters 1, and then I can go through this page by page and make sure everything's lined up correctly, or add a couple extra information if I needed to. But now I have, down at the bottom here, it says I have 30 pages. So there's 30 different letters in this document now. So that's how you can do what they call a mail merge, a form letter. And this is the end result for ours. So now at this point, I can save it. I can take it to PIP printing or whatever. I can email it. I could convert this to an Adobe PDF file, or just print it and mail it like you would normally. But that was quick and easy. Just step by step with that mail merge options here. And if you mess it all up, of course, you delete and start over. But if you have that list, like I did in Excel, it'll be quick instead of like if you manually type a list over and over again. I would just recommend putting your address list or whatever it is in an Excel document first. It'll make these form letters and things a lot faster for you. So the next thing I wanted to show you today is this. So there's this little newsletter here thing from a bookstore or something. If you do a newsletter and things of that nature, some of the formatting options you might want to do is by changing the columns. So a lot of times you see a newsletter and it has a box over here with some text, maybe a box over here with some text, separated inside different columns, and maybe have photographs somewhere on the screen. But that's the way to do that is with columns. And to change those is under the page layout tab here, page layout. Once you go there, the first thing you have to do, since this document is already created, what I'm going to do is I'll show you, I'm going to highlight this one paragraph up here. Click and drag and select it with that left button. Or I can triple click on it. Remember I showed you that last time. Click, click, click right away. It'll highlight that whole paragraph. All the text basically that's touching each other that are all together in line. Once it hits a space, it stops with that triple click. So I'm going to select that. And if you go up over here where it says columns, right under paper size here under that page setup area, click on columns and it shows you that it currently has one column. But you have options to say 2 columns, 3 columns, or left and then right. So if you look at the picture on the left and right, for the left one, the left column is a lot smaller than the right one. On this one called right here, the right column is a lot smaller than the left side. I'm just going to go back up to where it says 2 for this example. I'll click that once, and now that paragraph is split into 2 separate columns. So as you can see, I'm clicking in it, and if you look, this top ruler bar area here, it's separated in the middle, and both are certain sizes. So it shows you have 2 different columns. You've got 2 different working areas depending on which one you're looking at to work with. So when I'm over on this side, you can see I have my ruler bar up here, and it shows them in the section. If I go to that second paragraph down here, what is Books and Beyond, I click in there, it's back to that 1 column, so this whole section is one big area again, like it was before in the upper area. Now, maybe I want to try a different one. For example, let me select both of these, next section, and I'll go columns. I have 2 paragraphs. Let's pick 3, because there's a lot of information. You don't have to be stuck with 1 full column on the page. So this one is 2 columns. The next section I have 3 columns. And then it goes back down here to 1 column. So this is how they do all these columns in newsletters and other type of documents. And if you have some room, you can put photographs in certain areas and things like that. Let's look at, I'm going to select the other 2 paragraphs. I'm going to go columns. I'm going to show you what the left one looks like. So here we have 2 columns again, but that left one is a lot smaller, just like the picture showed. And if I click it and change to the right one, it just reverses it. That left one is large, and the right one is small. And I could go back to 3, 2, or 1. You know, it depends on what you want to do. So if you change it back, you know, you can just select what you're dealing with, like in this section here, which is the 2 columns. Just highlight your information, and I can switch it back to 1 column. And here's the 2 columns and 3 columns. But that's how they do those with those columns here under that page setup. Very useful for newsletters and different things like that when dealing with documents and stuff. But that's how they split it up and make it nice and neat, instead of just filling all the text out across the whole page like this, because maybe I want to switch this to 2 columns. And what you do, it does it rather quickly for you. When you get more advanced, you can have these columns flow to other pages, not just page 1, 2, and 3. It can jump to a totally different page. If you ever do a book or a novel or some large technical document. But the basics, intermediate, things like that, this would be pretty useful. You know, it all depends on what you need Microsoft Word for, what you're going to do in it, because there has so many different features that you can use. But the big thing is that envelopes, labels, and numbers, that's used quite often in the business environment. And also the columns are used quite often too. How do you insert boxes in Word documents? So boxes meaning text boxes. So if I just say I'm going to go to a new document, so those are columns. But if you need a box, text box, what you're talking about, that's under that Insert tab, the Insert section, and that would be over here for text box, where you manually put it where you want it to without using columns. If you want your columns to stay the same, you would use a text box, select it, and this is a box where you can drag and drop it anywhere on the screen. You are most welcome. So I have a text box now. I can put it anywhere. If I need another text box, I would simply go back to Insert again and go back to Text Box, and I can pick a different style and put another one in there, move it out of the way. And so this you can, if you do a technical document or instruction, at this point I can go, okay, I want to insert a picture. So I can put that picture in there, make it smaller, and then I can place it somewhere specific. Text wrapping. So then I can put a picture over there. The text boxes. Those are all options. But if you're trying to put something in the document, it's typically under that Insert tab. In this case, you're asking about text boxes. But Insert. Now, so this is if you don't want to change your columns, if you're not doing a lot of text, but you're doing graphical with text in different places, that's where you can do that, is under that Insert text box. Now you can, since we're on the topic here, we got that text box. If I double click on the edge, once you get those 4 arrows, double click, it brings up the options for formatting that box. So maybe you want to change the color inside, different styles, or don't want it, 3D effects, and that's all when you have that edge for that text box selected. Shadow effects or no shadow effects. Shape outline, color would be for the border, the outline. And what if you don't want an outline? You can always take that away. You don't have to show your audience or have it on the screen. You can take that outline away and say none. The box is still there. You're just not going to get the lines around the edges when they print. So I left the one here that has it, but at this one I took it away. You might want to leave it on there while you're working with your document, so there's a text box there. It's easier to see it, easier to move around. And then you can always turn it off later and say no outline to hide it, or change the thickness, which is called weight, of how thick that border is along the edge, like that. Those are some of those examples. All right, I think that's all I had for you today. I appreciate your time, and thank you for coming today.